name is Kendra Gaither, and I serve as president of the U.S. Africa Business Center here at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And it is my privilege to welcome all of you to the home of American business. We thank you for joining this high-level U.S.-Nigeria Executive Roundtable, where we have not just the privilege of convening this discussion in partnership with ABC Nigeria under the U.S.-Nigeria Business Initiative, but you may have noticed that we have additional bonus high-level participants who have joined us today. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, as you know, is the world's largest business advocacy organization. We operate in all 50 U.S. states and in more than 130 countries around the world, including in Nigeria, where our American Business Council Nigeria ably represents the interests of U.S. businesses operating in country. We are focused on promoting free enterprise, and we have been proud to do so for more than 114 years. Today's dialogue seeks pragmatic near-term actions to deepen trade and investment relationships between our two countries. And we're very privileged to be joined by the Honorable Governor Cardoso, the Central Bank Governor of Nigeria, whom has graced us previously in an ongoing dialogue that we have to strengthen that trade and investment relationship by making sure companies understand the business fundamentals and the reforms underway in Nigeria. And we're honored to welcome you back, sir. And we're especially privileged to be joined by the Honorable Minister of Trade and Investment, who we're pleased was able to add us to her agenda, and we'll have the privilege of hearing from her before she must depart for another engagement. But we're particularly honored that you would squeeze us into your agenda, as we know Bank Week is quite a hectic one. So allow me to just briefly talk about the U.S. Chamber's work in Nigeria so that we can hear from our distinguished guests. It goes without saying that Nigeria remains a pivotal market for U.S. companies. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and consumer base, with over 220 million people and approximately 70% under 35. And as many of you know, it's projected to be one of the most populous countries in the world by 2050. This demographic scale, combined with a resilient private sector and expanding innovation ecosystem, continues to present compelling opportunities for long-term capital, technology transfer, and job creation. The U.S. remains a major commercial partner and is one of the largest foreign investors in Nigeria. And it's multifaceted. It's all across sectors representing energy, mining, wholesale trade, technology, consumer, healthcare, logistics, and other services. Obviously, Nigeria's creative industries and tech startups continue to captivate the imagination of investors and partners and create new export pathways and digital services at scale to connect our nations. And certainly, U.S. companies continue to take note of that. And we're privileged to be able to add another chapter to that level of understanding and collaboration through the work of our U.S.-Nigeria Business Initiative. This has been an area of increasing partnership between our nations and increasing emphasis of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce since 2023. I know that many of you joined us when we had the privilege of hosting the President, the Honorable President Olayemi, in New York during the UN General Assembly, where not only did he usher in a new era in economic reforms and economic resiliency, but he rang the literal bell at NASDAQ to usher in an even stronger and deepening partnership between the business community and the government. We were very privileged that a year later we were able to formally launch the U.S.-Nigeria Business Initiative that we promised the President, and it was done so between the U.S. Chamber and ABC Nigeria, alongside the Honorable Vice President, to really establish a high-powered business platform for accelerating investment and policy solutions. We've continued on with that path, hosting tech dialogues and energy dialogues and focused dialogues around health and wellness and collaborating to feature business processing or BPO roadshow opportunities for companies. And we continue to have the privilege of hosting the governor here at the chamber, and have had the privilege of fighting over a shared board member who sends his greetings, the Honorable Dr. Robert Agbede, who serves on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and is an honorable member of the board of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So as we engage in today's executive dialogue, I think we can all agree there's a strong foundation for continuing to emphasize and focus in on the economic reforms, the developments that continue to bring our countries together, particularly monetary policy and financial sector priorities from the Honorable Governor, the continued work in expanding the trade and investment partnership and the trade and investment fundamentals from the Honorable Minister, and more importantly, the role that U.S. private sector can continue to play as a result of both of those efforts. So to give us a proper introduction of our honored speakers, I want to turn to our partner, Visa, who we're thankful to serve as a platinum sponsor, and offer the floor to Diana Palafico to introduce our honorable guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and partners. Visa is pleased to participate in today's U.S.-Nigeria Executive Roundtable and to support a dialogue that strengthens economic ties, investment confidence, and financial sector cooperation between the United States and Nigeria. We are proud to support Nigeria's vibrant electronic payments ecosystem in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria. We are pleased to work closely with the Central Bank of Nigeria and with stakeholders across the industry to develop solutions and help shape policies that expand the adoption of digital payments in Nigeria. We also provide cybersecurity support to help protect the integrity and resilience of the payments ecosystem. It is now my honor to introduce Governor Olayemi Cardoso. Since taking office in 2023, Governor Cardoso has led a series of bold and important reforms aimed at strengthening the Central Bank of Nigeria's ability to deliver on its policy and regulatory responsibilities. We are encouraged to see these efforts beginning to make a real difference, including improved stability in the Naira, reduced inflation, and stronger foreign portfolio investment inflows. Governor Cardoso brings with him deep experience in both banking and public finance, having spent nearly 3 decades in commercial banking. Prior to assuming his current role, he was chairman of Citibank Nigeria. Among other incredible things he has done, he has served as the Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget in Lagos State under the Governor Bola Tinubu, now President Tinubu. Earlier in his career, he worked at Chase Merchant Bank and was a co-founder of the Citizens Bank of Nigeria. Governor Cardoso's academic background is equally distinguished. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Managerial and Administrative Studies from the University of Aston in the United Kingdom, as well as a master's degree in Public Administration from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Today, we're also delighted to welcome Her Excellency Jumoko Oduwole, Nigeria's Minister of Trade, Industry, and Investment. We are thankful for her participation. Dr. Oduwole, too, has an incredible career, having held critically important roles in both academia and corporate governance. For example, she's a senior fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School, as Mostavar and Rahmani Center in Governance Advisor at MIT's Governance Lab. She holds degrees from the University of Lagos, Cambridge University, and Stanford Law School. And now please join me in warmly welcoming the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Cardoso, and the Minister of Trade and Industry and Investment, Dr. Oduwole.
Thank you, Diana. We're going to just adjust the order just a bit to allow the Honorable Minister to give some remarks. Recognize that she will have to depart for another commitment, but honor that you would join us for the time that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The real reason is because the Central Bank Governor is your speaker. And I just happened to crash the car. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps I should just, in the interest of time, rest on the very well elaborated protocols. Kendra, thank you. I want to start by thanking the Central Bank Governor for accepting your invitation because he doesn't often speak directly to private sector. And the reason is that we all understand the role of the central bank in an economy. And so when he accepts to speak at a forum such as this directly to private sector, and I got the information because nobody for some reason didn't know I was in town, it would have been remiss of me to not come here as a minister responsible for industry, trade and investment to say a few opening remarks ahead of your hearing from him. Many of you would know that the Tinubu administration in the last nearly 3 years has been successfully able to stabilize the Nigerian economy, and in fact, we've been on an inflection point since last year. Much of that work is due to Mr. Governor and his team. They're also here present with him. The stabilization of our macro, inflation, very difficult battle that they were able to, and I hope he gets to speak with you about how they've taken some very courageous steps. Even Mr. President could not get them to modulate their tough decisions, but we're all grateful because it's paying off for the Nigerian economy. As the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, we've partnered with many of the stakeholders across the room for quite a while, making sure that American businesses, through the Commercial Investment Partnership, are getting the resolution in terms of regulatory infrastructure. We identified 3 key areas: infrastructure, agriculture, and digital trade, and have been working and delineating private sector-led, a lot of leading US and Nigerian companies like Valmont of Nigeria, Coca-Cola, Google, Cisco, a number of Flutterwave, Visa, a lot of businesses that have taken the pains to work in a collaborative manner, supported and enabled by the G2G, the US government. I must commend the team that has been working with us in Nigeria. We had a ministerial earlier this year, about 7 people flew in from DC to partner with the Nigerian government, with my ministry, and working on how to facilitate discussions for private sector and enable them to continue to do business, which is what you around here want to do. The reason I raise this is because we all know that we're living in a very turbulent time, from tariffs to actual wars to conflicts across different strata, the kind that the world has not seen in many, many decades. Many of us were in, well, not many of you, but many of us from the government side were in Cameroon about 2 weeks ago with the MC14 WTO ministerial, and we know how we battled to try to move forward, but the world is such that a lot is happening at the G2G level. Our job is to make sure that private sector can continue to thrive, can continue to scale, can continue to trust, and continue to do business. So this week we spent a bit of time at the White House speaking with colleagues on how to facilitate this G2G relationship that will give you private sector the opportunity to continue to do business and to thrive and to scale. This afternoon you will hear from Mr. Governor on the Tinubu administration's deliberate steps to stabilize our economy and the direction which he and his team will continue to take. It's an important message to listen to as we go into the political year, and to be rest assured that the Nigerian government is stable, is forward-thinking, is innovative, and is collaborative for private sector across different sectors can be confident that this is a journey that is not going to falter. So with those few comments, I would just say in closing that we released 4 playbooks and 4 thematic areas earlier this year at Davos, which is available to investors. We have electronic copies and a few hard copies just across from our creative sector to digital trade to critical minerals to energy and sustainability, so you can understand our regulatory landscape, where things are, where the reforms are, how to go about navigating the Nigerian economy for those of you who may not be as familiar. So I want to thank you for your interest in the Nigerian economy, and we look forward to seeing your capital on the other side. Thank you.
I just want to quickly mention that it's true, the document was already printed, but we have a QR code that has all the information of the minister, everything is online, so please feel free to look so that you can have more information. Thank you.
And we thank you, Minister, for your comments, for your partnership, and for your openness to the feedback from the private sector. We look forward to continuing to grow, and we thank you for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you in Capitol. That is a commitment. You hear it's confirmed, we are coming. So we look forward to working with you on that. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn to the Honorable Governor. And thank you again, Governor, for being willing to provide an update. We took note of the Honorable Minister's comments that this is a unique and privileged opportunity that we have. We don't take it for granted. And so we want to offer you the floor with great appreciation for the remarks that you're going to give.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I will also, in the interest of time, adopt the existing protocols that the Honourable Minister made reference to. And let me really use this opportunity to thank the Minister for being here today. We didn't know that she was in town. And when we got to know, we reached out to her very late last night. And she had absolutely no hesitation in accepting to be here. So for that, we are very and really and truly, from my perspective, I think she's absolutely right. I do not, as a rule, talk to the private sector. And I'm so happy that she's here because it's a lot easier for me now to hand that baton over to where it truly belongs. And I know she has all that it takes to take this to the level that I perhaps were limited by virtue of the kind of job I do. Now, let me again thank the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the U.S. Africa Business Center for convening this executive dialogue under the U.S.-Nigeria Business Initiative. I welcome the opportunity, as always, for a candid, private sector-focused exchange on monetary and financial sector priorities, FX management, and financial system stability, and most importantly, on the concrete steps that can deepen U.S.-Nigeria trade and investment ties. And we were discussing this earlier before we came here, that the relationship between the U.S. and Nigeria of recent has had its twists and turns. Now, business should not be affected by twists and turns. And I do believe very strongly that more collaborative engagements like this is really and truly what will set the direction of that relationship. Our central message from the central bank is clear and consistent with what we have communicated throughout these spring meetings. Nigeria is staying the course. The reforms undertaken over the past 2 years were difficult but necessary, and our focus now is on sustaining implementation, locking in credibility through transparency, disciplined policy coordination, and rule-based operations. We are determined to ensure that investors such as yourselves have a perception of policy being predictable and consistent and not episodic, and that improvements in the macro-financial environment translate into practical outcomes for businesses like your own operating in Nigeria. On the monetary and foreign exchange front, our reforms are delivering tangible results. Inflation is generally on a downward trajectory, and for those of you who were here the other time, inflation had come down from about 37 to 15 over the past 15%, and to be frank, as far as I'm concerned, we're well on our way to single-digit inflation, well on our way. However, we don't operate in a vacuum, and we've seen the volatility and the negative impact that recent events have had on all countries of the world. Exchange rate and FX markets have significantly stabilized, with the result that companies can now plan and they do not have to front load their requests any longer. External reserves have risen to over 50 billion US by mid-February 2026, the highest level in more than a decade. These improvements, I know you'll be very pleased to know, have been reinforced by Nigeria's exit from the FATF grey list in October 2025, and we intend to keep it that way. Together, these reforms, supported by the bank's early warning system framework, have helped to limit the impact of the ongoing Middle East crisis on the Nigerian economy. And this is the second test, to be frank. A few months ago, when the introduction of the tariffs came about, many of the emerging markets currencies had a relatively difficult time. We did not. And similarly now, the volatility has been more or less minimal. We've been in a relatively good place as far as the impact on the Middle East crisis has been concerned. Going forward, our direction is clear. Entrench price stability, strengthen monetary policy framework, and sustain a market-reflective FX framework that supports liquidity, confidence, and transparent price discovery. We are prioritizing a more reliable, rules-based environment supported by stronger governance, improved reporting discipline, and better coordination with fiscal authorities, so that the cost of doing business declines not by administrative relief, but by a credible and more predictable system. And honestly, I couldn't overemphasize this. As far as we are concerned, we have ensured that much of what we've done in the central bank with the foreign exchange system is one that is open, transparent, and predictable, such that stakeholders can come in, they can see and understand where demand is coming from, where supply is coming from, where the rates are more or less open for you to engage in, and that you don't have a fear that certain things aren't done in a way that is open to all. In other words, we've embraced transparency in all its ramifications. We are also, and of course that has paid off, and that, to be honest, that's perhaps one of the biggest reasons why we have been able to accomplish the stability that we've been able to do in our foreign exchange regime. That will only get better, obviously. So far, the monetary has managed a lot of that process. It is no substitute for fundamentals, and the fundamentals, in my judgment, are getting better. We are also modernizing payments, regulation, and supervision, strengthening cybersecurity, and reinforcing consumer protection, because ultimately, trust, reliability, and dispute resolution are part of what makes a market investable at scale. Also, a critical pillar of this agenda is a stable and well-capitalized financial system. We have recently concluded a major bank recapitalization exercise in March 2026, which raised 4.65 trillion naira and materially reinforced capital buffers across the system. Of course, I would hasten to add that the central bank itself is leading the way as far as creating buffers is concerned. And again, these are the positive things that have led us to good outcomes with recent unpredictability. And that is the same philosophy we're taking to the banks. We do believe that our banking system also have got to embrace having good, stable buffers that will see them through all the challenges of the markets in which they operate. The exercise attracted robust investor participation, with 72.55% of capital raised domestically and 27.45% from foreign investors, underscoring sustained international confidence while reinforcing domestic ownership. 33 banks met the revised minimum capital requirements, with capital adequacy ratios maintained above Basel benchmarks, enhancing shock absorption capacity, credit support potential, and risk resilience. This stronger capital base, combined with improved balance sheet transparency, positions Nigerian banks to expand lending to SMEs and the real economy, support investment, and underpin sustainable growth. I'm sure many of you would know that the Nigerian banks are pretty much well situated in many parts of the African continent. In actual fact, we would say that they dominate many of the markets on the continent. And beyond that, for example, in the UK, 7 of the Nigerian banks have a presence in the United Kingdom. We believe that with stronger capitalization and these buffers that has been created, the opportunities for them to even do better are very, very strong. Our expectation, therefore, is that a stronger banking system will underpin deeper intermediation, support longer-term financing, and improve the resilience of payment and settlement infrastructure that the United States firms rely on. For those of you who may know or may not know, one of the big US banks is JP Morgan is setting up an office in Nigeria this year. Nigeria seeks long-term investment partnerships with a strong emphasis on technology transfer, workforce development, and innovation. We welcome US private sector support in strengthening supply chains, enhancing export competitiveness, and deepening value addition across key sectors. Collaboration in areas such as fintech, digital infrastructure, and advanced manufacturing will be particularly important in supporting productivity, competitiveness, and inclusive growth. And of course, The Honorable Minister alluded to some of these things in our opening remarks. Let me conclude with this. With a young and dynamic population, strong reform momentum, renewed macroeconomic stability, and a clear commitment to transparency, Nigeria is positioned as one of the most attractive investment destinations in Africa. We are keen to hear directly from U.S. companies on their experiences in Nigeria, what is working, where frictions remain, and how policy can better support long-term investment. And let me, at this point, also say that the central bank has the, according to statute, we have the responsibility of advising the federal government of Nigeria. And it is from fora such as these that we do collect useful information and push that back to the presidency, so at least they have a better feel from an organization that isn't involved in the normal day-to-day operations with the private sector and other stakeholders. We can't say that we get listened to all the time, but I can certainly say that as a result of the credibility that the central bank has been able to build up from managing very, very difficult period of the last 2.5 years, there tends to be a tendency to at least want to know what the thinking of the bank is and what feedback we can give. We also welcome more structured and regular engagement with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the U.S.-Nigeria initiative, business initiative to sustain dialogue, improve policy feedback, and facilitate investment. And honestly, I really mean what I said when I mentioned the fact that we have a very dynamic Minister of Investment and Trade, and I would really encourage you to use her a lot more. And you can rest assured that if you need our support, we will be there to ensure that that happens. We look forward to deepening our engagement with U.S. businesses and unlocking new opportunities for mutually beneficial growth. Thank you very much.
His Excellency the Governor mentioned, that yes, we have a plan that's coming on board. One of the things that we not know about that is that one of the decisions that made the bank take the decision was the fact that about 90% of their top 50 customers were already operating in Nigeria, and that provided the confidence for them to. So we see that the role of the central bank is extremely critical in driving FDIs, and we really appreciate the work that's going on there. Having said that, we want to highlight, for those who don't know, that there are about 7 key areas to the U.S.-Nigeria Business Initiative. And the very first one is the banking and financial institutions, which, as we can see, is the bedrock of making a lot of these things happen. And one of the areas that we see as a possible moving forward, is one of the contribution in the area of the focus on strengthening cybersecurity. And for this reason, we'd like to also share some of the work that we're doing, and obviously looking at how we can work together to move this. We have seen the central bank increasing its attention on cybersecurity and digital payment infrastructure, which obviously reflects a forward-looking approach to financial systems. And obviously, from our end, we are running what we call the cybersecurity workflow in conjunction with the Office of the National Security Advisor, and we're seeing the opportunity to drive initiatives that can help grow talent in this area, working with CISOs and banks. And this is an ongoing project, and I will be happy for us to expand on this and move forward with with this project. Overall, the temperature in terms of how U.S. companies see the way work is that there's increased trust, there's increased confidence. Obviously, it's kind of imperfect, and that's why it's a process. We're seeing maybe some would say we still need to see more turnaround times in terms of approvals. And I'm sure that the quality conversations that are happening with the private sector would help pull these issues up. But overall, we're very grateful for this partnership, and it's ongoing, and we will get back on the issue of strengthening cybersecurity and working with the central bank, to move this forward. And the government is working, but I believe that it's all well taken note, and we will keep talking about this. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, time is fast spent, and good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellency, the Governor, Central Bank of Nigeria, I want to thank you for your continued engagement with the private sector. I think this is not the first, second, or fourth time that you have honored this chamber with your presence, and I think it speaks volumes to your commitment to open dialogue and partnership. At Flutterwave, just like Kendra mentioned now, we've seen firsthand what is really and truly possible when innovation and policy align, and when we move from policy to action. We believe conversations like this are critical to sustaining growth momentum in Africa, particularly Nigeria, which is our home country and largest market. Today's engagement reinforces the strength of the US-Nigeria business relationship and the shared ambition to deepen it through investment, collaboration, and reform. So I say thank you very much, sir, and wish you and your team safe travels back to Abuja, and looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Honorable Governor, we would be remiss if we did not give you the opportunity to say any closing reflections as we bring this body to a close.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for the very, very warm hospitality. And as I was saying earlier, I noticed that it gets warmer and hotter the more often we come. So we look forward to continuing this dialogue. And honestly, as far as I can see, the opportunity for investment in Nigeria could not be coming at a better time. And the reason I say this is because, you see, a lot of things have dogged the economy over the recent past, particularly with respect to foreign exchange. And that has really been the elephant in the room for such a long time. People come in, they make investments, they can't get their money out, the currency depreciates. It's a constantly evolving story that very sadly, very, very sadly, the country has had to deal with for so many years. We believe that we're past that now. We believe we're past that. We believe that the very, very difficult, and in tackling this, let me say something. It isn't just one item that solves the problem. It's a multiple number of different things. For example, the lifting of the oil subsidy by the president. Okay. Using monetary policies that engage excess money supply and ensure that your economy is one which is properly calibrated. These are all things that make for stability. Having a foreign exchange regime that doesn't have multiple windows. Okay, so it discourages bad behavior. Okay, so all those things which sadly, very sadly, have been a source of discouragement to investors over the years have now been taken care of. The worst thing that can happen is for people to have gotten so discouraged that at a time when things are really back on an even keel, you're looking somewhere else. And the reason I say this is because I remember, I think it was actually here, okay, about 2 or 3 times ago, a comment was made by one of the members who was had the view that, oh, we're finding it so difficult to repatriate our money from Nigeria. Not the case at all. Okay, this is legacy. This is something that happened so many years ago, and we passed that. Okay, now you can bring in your money, you can take it out at will. People, Nigerians travel, they use their Naira cards to make payments. You don't have to front load your requirements. So, the country has finally, in my view, passed that on. So, the fundamentals are more or less in place, and it is now right for people who have the right vision to come in and invest. I think this is really the time. So I really want to thank you so much for being so warm, and like the minister said, we don't talk to the private sector, but it's difficult not to when you're so warmly received when you come here. So thank you very much for
Well, thank you, Honorable Minister, Governor, pardon me, for making it so easy to be warm. We're really grateful for your leadership, for your partnership, your openness with this community. I want to thank your honorable distinguished members of your delegation for being with us, your board member who's keeping you on your toes. I know what that feels like, so thank you, Professor, for leadership and action. Thank you to all of you around this table. I must just note a point of order, Honorable Governor, since this year the World Bank and IMF fall meetings will be in Thailand. It sounds like our next meeting will have to be in Nigeria. You heard me committed to the minister. I know Margaret is waiting for us, and so we look forward to seeing you there. And so I want to thank you. I thank all assembled. Thank you to Visa for your partnership for today's event and your sponsorship. Thank you to our Vice Chair, and thank you to all of you, and good afternoon.